morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us online, and welcome to episode 1, or our first Changemaker Community Live for this year, for 2021, and the first one ever, in fact. My name is Jaco from Element 8. I'm joined with some of the Element 8 team. We have Lenny Smit, who's our Customer Success Manager. We have Clarice, who looks after all our marketing and brand. And then we have Laura, who's new to the team. Welcome to the team, Laura. Laura is joining Lenny's team as a Customer Success Engineer. So thank you for joining us. We know that it's very, very difficult to get an hour out of anybody's time nowadays. There's a million other things you could have been doing. Thanks for joining us. Changemaker Community Live, what is it about? These will be done quarterly. It's probably the easiest way for us to just encapsulate probably the most important updates and notes from Element 8 within 1 hour. So if you're going to spend an hour with us live or virtually, do make an effort to attend the Changemaker Community Live. We'll be having these at the end of every quarter, end of March. Following one will obviously be the end of June. All right, what do we have with us for today as far as the agenda is concerned? Quickly go through the updates. So we will be kicking off with product updates, specifically what's new in the world of Ignition, Canary, and Flow. We'll be talking about some new training offerings. Enablement will cover a couple of aspects of what is available to you in terms of just getting familiar with the software, some new guides and so on. Support, very important in the sense of technical support, just how to go about getting technical support. There's quite a big change on the Flow software side. For the win, we want to speak a little bit about some new customers, new success stories, as well as certifications from our partner, system integrator partner community. And then the feature for today, or the feature item for today, is 10 steps to a sustainable SCADA. So what the feature is about is every Changemaker Live will be focusing on a specific industry vertical and sharing a couple of insights there with somebody who's an expert in that field. We're certainly not the experts. We're kicking it off today with a focus on the water industry, or more specifically 10 steps to a sustainable SCADA. This is actually quite universal to multiple industries, but we'll be kicking that one off today with Brian Cooper from Integ. And then hopefully we will have enough time for a live Q&A. The Q&A, by the way, you can type those while we're presenting. You can ask us those questions in the relevant box, and we'll answer those at the end of the call. But again, thank you very much for joining us for the first episode of Changemaker Live.
Cool. Some of you guys might have seen Brian on the videos as well. We'll get to Brian and introduce him a little bit later. But I will quickly just go through a little bit of the product updates and product recap that we've got. And I'm going to cover all 3 of the products that we've got in our stack. Obviously, Ignition, Canary, as well as Flow. First up is Ignition. Just a little bit of a recap of the current version that we're on. So currently version 8.13 is available for download. 8.14 is actually available as a release candidate. And these versions do get released quite often. So you'll see in a little bit in the roadmap that I'm going to show you is how often do we get a new release. Just to recap that 8.1 is what we call an LTS support release. So that means it will be the long-term support cycle of the solution. And that's going to be around for another 5 years that we'll continuously give updates and bug fixes on that platform. If we look at a little bit of the monthly release cycle, as I mentioned, so 8.1 has been released in November last year already. And you can see as we progress through the updates, it's pretty much almost every month except January that we almost had a new upgrade and a new version. And currently, as I mentioned, 8.14 is in that release candidate, so you can go check out what the new features are. I just want to highlight a few of these new features on the Ignition platform. Are kind of very important as well. For those of the guys that's still on the old 7.9 platform, there's a little bit of a guide to guide you through the upgrade process to get to 8.1. If you are already on 8.0, no problem. You can go and upgrade to the latest platform. So just be aware that there is a guide that you can get on the Inductive website. Let's look a little bit about just a little bit of the features that we've got in 8.1. Very cool. They've added in this concept of a quick start guide. The quick start guide you can go and enable when you install your Ignition system for the first time. It comes with predefined dashboards, charts, layouts, just a little bit of ways to help you get going and how to utilize the new functions and features that's available in the new version. So that's pretty cool. Also, what we have is a little bit of improvements in the designer just to make your design experience much faster and much better. And you'll notice that, for instance, here I've got an alarm pipeline and notification on the screen, but you'll notice that there's these little wizards to guide you. So you can either go and select the blank one or choose from a priority or an escalation pipeline just to guide you to very quickly get yourself going. And a lot of these components has these little wizards now, not just the alarms, but also the named queries as well as a SQL bridge module all come with these little predefined setups. My favorite one for sure is the support for Docker. Now, the guys that don't know Docker, it's pretty much a little Linux VM that you can run. Ignition now supports official Docker images on the Docker Hub that you can pull and download. And we see this quite often that now even panel PCs and panel pieces of equipment and hardware
touch panels.
Correct, is now Docker supported. So you can actually pull the latest version of Docker onto and start playing with it. And I'll do a little bit of a live demo when I'm just done here with the features on how Docker works and how you can get that very quickly up and running. Cool. From a usability perspective, they've added in gateway auditing, so you know what is being audited or changed in your gateway settings. They added in IDP support, so if you want to use your identity providers or federated identity providers to log into Ignition, you can utilize them. They've also added the capability for the IDP's login to also include the designer, the gateway, and not just the Perspective project, so you can utilize your identity providers for login. And lastly, obviously, Perspective has got a great new usability features. Very important is the new power chart functionality that they've added. They've also included a whole bunch of mimics and symbols that you can now add to your Perspective projects. If you want to still draw a little bit more mimic type of applications in Perspective, you can definitely do that. And very important, the release of what we call Perspective Workstation. Perspective being a browser, obviously, there's a few things with that. You don't have multi-monitor support. You can't lock the PC down. So what they've done is they brought in Perspective Workstation to cater for that. Multi-monitor support, kiosk mode, lockdown, and give the browser or the session the capability then to talk to the serial drive of the PC, etc.
Very important to make sure that you, as a designer or an admin, actually know how to get out of the
out of the kiosk.
But you may have missed it around the licensing. So the licensing also changed in that regard. So you may be familiar with various iterations of how the licensing or client licensing worked. Specifically for the latest version of Perspective, it comes in 3 flavors. One is obviously the browser-based or pure web. The second one is the workstation or the kiosk mode that Lenny mentioned now. And the third one is obviously the mobile or the app-specific version.
Correct. So you can use, if you buy a Perspective license, that session is available to all 3 of those components. Cool. And then obviously no releases without a little bit of fixes. So they did fix a little bit of bugs that we have in the solution. So they fixed the expression structure fix in the Perspective bindings. The on-screen keyboard got a little bit of a fix in the overall. And then just overall gateway network improvements have been improved in this release. Now, obviously, this is just a very small subset of the solution or of the improvements that's been done in the versions. You can go to their website. Obviously, 2 things that you can look at is the documentation. The documentation is really great. You can see what is all the new components that's been added to a version. And obviously, on the download tabs, you can go and look at the release notes. Now, you saw that these releases are quite often, right? So I do encourage you guys to go and look at least every month to see what is the new versions, etc.
It's very well documented as well.
Extremely. Right, now let me quickly show you the Docker. So this for me is very exciting. So yeah, I've got Docker dashboard running. I've already pulled an image from Docker Hub for Ignition. And you'll notice that I can tag them. So this is the actual nightly build. So what that means is I can get the latest release as the developers are done with it, build it on their server, and I can pull that nightly release without going to having to download a full version of Ignition every time I want to play with a new feature. So I can literally go and pull the image from Docker Hub. I've done it already this morning, so you'll see mine is already up to date. So that is the latest hub that's available on Ignition, and I can literally go and run this guy. Now,
that nightly build is quite a nice feature. Maybe a lot of people are not aware of it, but you actually have a daily access and update to the current under development
Obviously not something you will run in production.
No,
Definitely not.
definitely not for live production.
Also not the release candidates I won't run in production. But yes, if you're waiting for a bug to get fixed or a new feature and you want to test it out on your application, very quickly to pull the latest. Obviously, what I need to do is I just need to tell Docker which gateway port from Ignition do I want to forward to my host, right? So obviously we know the default gateway port for Inductive is 8088, and I'm just going to map that to my port on my local machine to 8082, and I'm going to go and run this guy. So we're going to start it. Docker does give some quite nice names to the instances. Condescending Calum. Currently, I've got Brian Noyce running here, and it's running on port 8082. So if I go to my browser and I type in localhost and I go to port 8082, there we go. There's a brand new instance of Ignition running, ready for me to commission and install.
Very easy.
So I encourage you guys to check it out. Very easy, very quick to get it up and running, and it's very cool to check out these latest versions and components that's available. All right, let's get back to a little bit deeper into Sepasoft. Now, for you guys that don't know, is that there is a company that builds MES solutions on top of the Ignition platform. It's called Sepasoft.
Specifically designed for Ignition.
Specifically designed for Ignition. And the cool thing is that they currently release 3 versions of their OEE solutions. Guys that don't know OEE, that is obviously in a little bit of the MES world to get a look at your overall equipment efficiency. And obviously with Ignition Edge being capable of running on a little bit of edge devices, they're bringing out the OEE solution for edge. So we can get a low-cost OEE solution actually running on the Ignition Edge platform for a really small application. So that's great.
Quick question we had yesterday, or in fact this morning, around the OEE. So that is an actual full install on your OEE device component. Just remember to delete the install files.
After the fact, yeah, it does take up a little bit of files on these little Moxo routers or whatever you're going to use.
And quickly on OEE, just on the topic of OEE, if you're not familiar with OEE at all, there is a podcast that we did with Walker Reynolds probably a couple of months ago.
Correct.
Where we spoke about, delved a little bit deeper in terms of what OEE is, why you want to use and measure it. So
it's still a relevant metric.
It is still a relevant metric.
Right. All right. If you want to see what is the differences between the versions of the OEE components, obviously you can go and browse to the link I've got down. Don't worry about these links. We will share all the relevant links that we're listing here in the future with you guys afterwards, so you can go and look at these after the fact. Cool. That's Ignition and Sepasoft. Just a quick update on that.
OEE on Edge. Very exciting.
Very exciting for small applications, definitely. On the Canary side, Canary's versioning is a little bit different. They go with the year. So when you see a Canary version 21, that means it's for the year of 2021. Again, they also have quite an aggressive release cycle. So if we go back to a little bit of October 2020, they released version 20.34. And you'll notice as we go on, it actually is also very aggressive, almost monthly again. And they released version 21, or the first version for this year, in February 2021. They are currently in beta for 21.1. And there's some quite new features and exciting features on that side. A little bit of the features that's included in that is there's a line tool now in Axiom. That's quite cool.
Very cool.
Because now I can actually build a nice mimic type-ish application within my Axiom dashboard. I'll actually show that to you guys.
You can make the line blue.
You can make the line blue, and I'll show you that as well. Interesting kind of calculation they've added. They've added in a calculation where I can get the previous value of a current value in the historian. So if you want to do deltas, or you want to see what is the rate of change for something, you can use the previous value calculation. They've extended their APIs to actually now bring you back any assets that you've defined within your Canary views. So if you use the virtual views, I can go and use that and see that as well. Usability perspective, this is a big one for me. On the MQTT UI, it was something that was done kind of in the back end to get the MQTT integrated into Canary. There's a nice new UI for that. I'll show you that.
That's a configuration panel.
Correct. And you don't have to go and figure it out in a SQL little database. They've added IntelliSense for their functions and tags and the calculations. And the nice thing is that you can now also install the view service without installing the historian component. So in the past, if you had a multi-architectural solution, you had to install the historian component with the view service. They split that out in the installer, and you can now just install the view service on a particular piece of hardware in your architecture. Obviously, also fixes. This is quite a big one for us in South Africa. If you used a comma as a decimal separator, like we in the Dutch, I don't know why, but we don't use dots like all the normal countries, then it couldn't figure out which Excel version is installed on your laptop, and the installer would crash. So that's been fixed. That's quite a big fix for us. There was also a failure when you tried to add an MQTT connection via anonymous login. And there was also a bug when copying calculations. The expression did not evaluate to the new copied calculation. It still showed you the old result from where you copied it.
So we see a lot of functionality being built out specifically around MQTT, and you're probably going to hear us speak about MQTT quite a lot over the next couple of minutes. And it definitely, MQTT feels like at the moment, in terms of build out of technology, that a lot is being catered for and designed for specifically MQTT.
Correct.
And there's a lot of good reasons for that, and we'll elaborate on that a little bit later.
Cool. Let me show you guys some of these new things. All right, let's get off Docker. Cool. This is version 21.1. You'll notice that I've already upgraded to the beta. And you'll notice that I've got the MQTT collector here already configured. Now, in the olden days, sounds like
olden days.
Last week, you had to actually go into a little bit of goose chase to get this thing configured. So if I go to Canary Labs here, I go to the logger, I go in here, MQTT, there was this little SQLite file that you had to go and configure in the tables of how you want to configure your MQTT, to which broker do you want to connect, which topics do you want to subscribe. It wasn't really user-friendly.
A little bit onerous.
It was also a little bit of onerous. So they created this little MQTT connector tile here for us. And now I can see how many tags I've got subscribed. And I can actually go and click on this configuration section here, and I have a nice GUI where I can go and configure my browser. I can go and configure which subscriptions do I want to connect to, what is the quality of service that I want to connect to. So everything is now at least nicely in a GUI for us to go and configure. And obviously, they utilize the Spark-B implementation of MQTT to automatically add the tags and see those tags in there.
Spark-B, there was another podcast
Correct.
Comes to mind with Arlen Nipper, where we speak a little bit more about MQTT and specifically Spark-B and why it is the future, really.
Right, so that's the first thing that they've changed is the GUI for the MQTT. Then on the calculations, as we saw, the little bit of IntelliSense in calculations, I've got a whole bunch of calculations here. But if I go and edit one of these calculations, you'll see that there's a nice IntelliSense of that. Let me rather just create a new one. So I'm going to add a new calculation. And you'll notice now in the calculation expression, when I start to add a function, it's going to nicely give it to me in a blue color. So we know that functions is colored blue. So let's do something like if I want to know what is the minimum of a particular tag, functions is now blue. And then when I add an actual tag into my solution here, tags will be colored in orange. So you've got a little bit of IntelliSense in the functions editor now, so you actually know what you're doing. What is a little bit more intuitive, what is the actual function and what is the actual tags that you are building the expression for. Cool, and then lastly, very quickly that I want to show is obviously the lines in Axiom. So this is Axiom. This is the dashboarding and trending capability tool. Now, I always had the capability in Axiom to add symbols, right? So if I add a symbol to the screen here, I don't know, I can maybe add a little bit of a valve to go and create a little bit of a dashboard for myself. And let's also go and add a little bit of a tag. So if I want to now go and configure potentially a line between my valve and my tank that I'm adding here, you'll notice that I now have the capability to add a line. So there's a new component in Axiom, which is the line component. I know it sounds a little silly, but I can now go and configure a line.
Well, that was really the only thing missing from a full.
So I can now configure a line. The nice thing about the line is I can actually hook the line up to data in the story. So I can go and give it a source tag. So I can say, let's look at the flow that goes between the valve and the tank. So there's a flow meter there. So I'm going to add that flow. And then I can add limits. So I can say, you know what, I want to know if the value is greater than 2, if there's flow, change the line to, I don't know, a bluish color. And there we go.
That's very cool. So it's not just not artificial add, it's a functional add.
It's a functional add to the line component as well. So you can really go and build some nice, cool dashboards on that component. Cool. Just quickly wanted to show you guys a little bit of that feature as well within Canary. Cool. And then the last product, obviously, the documentation and the release notes also available on their website. We will share these links as well after the fact. Flow, last one in our stack that we just want to quickly cover. So Flow version 4.5.4 is coming at the end of April. A little bit on Flow's release cycle as well. You'll notice that we released version 5.3 in June 22, and in July we've released 5.33. So in Flow, it's a little bit more like a bi-monthly. Every 2 months we try to get a little bit of a minor release out. Where we're currently at is version 5.35. That was the last minor for the 5.3 release, and now we're going to release 5.4 at the end of April. That's a big one. A lot of features coming in. So if I can look at the features for Flow, we're adding in model security, so you can secure the parts of your model based on who's logged into the configuration tool. We're adding in a data source for InfluxDB, so extending the reach of silos of information that we can get into Flow with that InfluxDB.
What is that collection made up of at the moment? Just a quick recap.
Sure. It is made of obviously Canary historian, inductive historian, SQL database, Excel files, Wonderware, Aviva historian, Oracle database, PostgreSQL database, and MySQL. So we're extending the reach of, and obviously very important, manual data that people can manually enter. So we're extending the reach of our data sources. We're adding in some cool enhancements for event triggering, where an event can trigger another event, etc. So that's going to be quite a big feature for us. From the usability perspective, we are including template charts and dashboards. That is quite a cool feature. I've got a little bit of a video, just of a little bit of a snippet from development, obviously with still the raw beta version, but I'll show you guys how that works. We're also going to be able to templatize our events. So currently in Flow, we can templatize our model components, our measures. We're going to add consumers and events to that templatizability. And very importantly, we're going to add copy and paste. I know it sounds simple, but the whole idea with the copy and paste is not just to copy and paste inside your own Flow model, but you can actually copy and paste between Flow instances. So if you've got a development environment, copy it to your production environment, and off you go. Also,
that's been a hot topic request.
Yes, and we're trying to make it for any component, not just the model, the charts, the dashboards, etc. And we're also including exports and import functionality for those components. And then obviously we've got a little bit of fixes and updates. There was a namespace rendering issue with our SQL consumer. We're adding in, from an update perspective, we're adding support for .NET Core 3.1 and .NET Framework 4.8, so keeping up with the technology. And we're also going to add minutely retrieval types up until 1 minute. So from you guys probably know that currently Flow only support minutely updates to 5 minutely buckets. We are going to reduce that to you can actually go and have a minutely update of an aggregation or calculation within Flow.
Minute time bucket.
Great. Got a little bit of a video here from development, guys. This is 4.5, still in its beta, or
5.4.
5.4, sorry. Dyslexics Lenny on the roll here.
Pure being found as a.
Yes, Dyslexics Untitled. So please, I just want to show you the templatizing of the reports and the dashboards. All right, so this is the configuration tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just build a new dashboard quickly for us. So I'm going to go build a dashboard, and what I've got is a whole bunch of electricity meters on my filling line. So I'm measuring the amount of electricity that's being used.
This could be a typical kind of utilities view.
Typical kind of utilities view, etc. So I'm going to build a time-based table report, and normally what we had to do in the sections is I had to go and add from my model all of those components individually, right? So I had to manually build out this thing. But because I'm using templates, I'm actually going to just drag the one template. Okay. Now Flow now knows how many instances has been derived from that template. So when I open up this report, it's not just going to show me the one, it's going to show me all of the filling line or instances in the report. So you'll notice that if I open up my dashboard here, there I go. I've got both of them, right? But I've only added in the one from the template. So I'm utilizing the template technology to very quickly and rapidly build out my reporting. Now, obviously, This is now showing them into one section, the electricity section. But what I could have done is I could have dragged the actual template metric onto my report as well. That will then create a section for each instance. Right, again, I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to drag that daily metric across. And if I refresh my report now, you'll notice that each filler will have its own metric. All right. So gone are the days that I have to go and manually add these things again and again and again to the report. It will automatically update. There you can see the two sections there. The really cool thing is, even if I instantiate new guys from that template, so if I create a new one, form that metric. So let's quickly create energy for filler number 3. I don't have to do anything to report. I just have to instantiate filler number 3 from the template. Obviously, hook it up to the correct tag in the historian where it needs to get the energy usage file from. So I'm just going to quickly add that to the retrieval. So there I've got my namespace in my historian. I'm going to add the electricity component there and deploy it. And if I refresh, filler number 3 will be automatically into the list without me having to edit the dashboard or the chart. So I'm very excited for that feature.
It's going to save a lot of time.
It's going to save a lot of time. We are including this not just to table charts and reports. So I'm going to just add it very quickly to a normal time-based chart, also a daily chart. Do the same concept here. I'm going to use my template to populate this chart, not the individual instances. And again, you've got the same capability, right? Either adding it on its own axes or using the metric to add it as 2 separate stacks in the chart. So literally that's all I have to do. If I go back to my front end and refresh, you'll notice that I've got a new component on the dashboard, and it's now going to show me my electricity meters in a normal time-based chart with limits, stats for each and one of the fillers. So that's quite cool. That's very exciting for us from the flow side, is the charting template capability. Very nice. Cool. Where to find it? Again, we will share this with us, but again, there is full documentation and release notes on the latest versions. And please, guys, just remember to check that bi-monthly from a flow perspective. Cool. With that, I'm going to hand over to Laura to talk a little bit about the upcoming training and what's new in training.
Fantastic. And before you do, just if you have any questions on any of these products, if you are a user of Ignition, Canary, Flow, you have any questions, let us know in the chat or connect with us afterwards. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you, Lenny. Hi, everyone. So I'll be covering the training courses and resources, as well as our new university engagement program that we will be implementing in South Africa this year. So first up is our new advanced Ignition training course. Now we cover the newest version of Ignition, as Lenny had explained, and the course has been extended over 5 days instead of the previous 3-day course. Now we spend the first day only covering the basics of SQL, some Python coding, and how to integrate the DB into the Ignition gateway. For the rest of the week, basically we build an awesome machine scheduling system. So Lenny, what exactly do we cover in that?
Yeah, so we are actually building a nice machine scheduling solution. So which work orders do you... Yes. Say again?
I can't hear clearly. No, not clearly.
Not clearly.
Can't hear.
Okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
Not sure what that was, sorry.
Yeah, so we're creating a machine scheduling solution, so you can actually run specific tasks and work orders on a machine. You can move the machines around, allocating different work orders to the machine. Everything is done with a database in the back end and some Python scripting. So it's quite a nice advanced course.
Just to confirm that the requirement for the advanced is obviously to do the core.
Yeah, we have to do the core, unfortunately, before, and because it's quite hectic, the components that we do in the advanced course, definitely.
Oh, okay, cool. And then secondly, our new Flow training course. So it has also been extended from 3 to 5 days, when the first 3 days we provide core flow training, and then in the last 2 days, the advanced flow training. And then 2 of the subjects that we cover are real-life OEE applications and database integration in the advanced training.
Yeah, and I would also strongly recommend that you first do the core before you come in the advanced flow training. definitely you need to have the core basic understanding before you can do the advanced.
And definitely. And then lastly, coming up is our Durban training in April, in the week of the 20th.
Cool.
And about 3 days are dedicated to the ignition perspective training and 2 days to Canary systems training. So make sure to check out our training dates and packages to take advantage of our new training opportunities.
And that's our first training in Durban, first local training in Durban.
Yeah, we did a remote session in Cape Town a
Yes,
few weeks ago,
which was lovely, by the way.
it was very good. We saw the mountain actually.
Mountain was good.
So the next one will be in Durban from a region perspective. Yeah.
Cool.
Right, so you can get even more out of ignition by visiting inductiveuniversity.com. The sign-up process is quick and cost-free. Now, on Inductive University, we offer hundreds of free ignition videos, and there's also lots of helpful documentation in our online user manual. Next, we offer the same service with free Canary training videos that basically covers courses about Axiom train graphs, Axiom applications, and then the Canary Excel add-in.
Cool. And that's actually 3 courses.
Yeah, it's 3 different
I initially
courses.
thought it was 3 videos, but it's actually three complete courses. Yeah.
On its own now. And you can also access these videos online at learn.canarylabs.com. And sign up requires just a little bit of your time and no costs from your side.
Cool.
Now, next up.
There we go.
Slide is not changing. Okay, cool. So the University Engagement Program, it's a new project that we will introduce to the universities in South Africa this year. Now, the project aims to foster relationships in our communities by creating a bridge between the industry professionals and educational institutions. Now, we want to improve creativity and innovation through exposing the university to ignition software. Now, the goal is to get ignition into the hands of as many students as possible. Even with the pandemic sidelining education for several months of 2020, the UEP was able to take off with currently 32 academic institutions using ignition within their curriculum, spanning over 13 different academic programs. Now, these institutions are from 7 different countries, and from this year on, we will be part of those countries. So, yeah, I actually spoke to Annie yesterday, and she said that it's about 9 countries at the moment, so I think we'll be the 10th. So it's increasing day by day. And the current academic programs that Ignition are using is somewhere where the lines of computer science, computer, electrical, mechanical engineering, and there's I think about 9 more different academic programs that are using the Ignition software.
Cool. And that's basically what is included. So when we say university program, it's basically Ignition being used for free at no charge at any educational or tertiary institution.
So what inductive automation will be providing the universities are licensing for the professors, the students, and laboratory settings. And like you said, it's free to use. So they can use it for education, they can use it for projects, they can use it for students actually have access to the Maker Edition for private use, but they can build their own little projects, which I think is very cool. Awesome. And then all their needed resource materials to establish Ignition into the curriculum and all-round support and communication between the universities and the industry partners to provide a beneficial experience for the university.
Cool. So on that, the call to action really is from our side is if you in your network are familiar with a lecturer, a dean, anybody at a faculty of engineering, anybody that you have in your network that you think this would be useful to, we'll be reaching out to a couple of institutions, but in your network, if you know of anybody, let us know. We'd love to chat with them.
It would be great to hear if anyone's interested in actually taking a look at Ignition and playing around with it, maybe see if they can use it.
Awesome.
So we agree that this would be beneficial for a lot of South African universities as well as create ample job opportunities for students. That's colleges. The whole idea.
Colleges, I think.
Yeah, no, that's the whole idea, is to get students to get a first-hand experience with Ignition.
Using modern scale, yeah.
And then when they're done graduating, there will be a very good chance for them to get, a job offer.
Make it a little bit easier, make it a little bit more marketable.
Yeah. So like Yaka said, we'd love to receive any questions and suggestions from your side regarding this program.
Cool. Awesome.
Right. So I'll be handing over to Clarice.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, I will just quickly give you an update about the assets and resources that's freely available to your team that we've been creating and publishing the last year. So last year we've launched powerful technical how-to sessions, and these videos are available freely on our website and YouTube channel. This is really great content that we've created for the community to self-learn on admission, Canary and Flow, or any issues that you might have experienced in the past. Is a very quick guide to just show you and tell you how you can fix it yourself. And then if you're not aware, we actually launched a podcast called the Human Machine Podcast last year.
It's a very humble podcast.
Yeah.
We're not professionals, but it's good.
Yeah. So
It's good conversation. Sorry, not the podcast. I can't judge, but it's good. It's great conversation.
Very. And this year we actually decided to launch a Future of and Trend series where we sit with the industry legends that talk about the views of the industry in the future. So if you want to be part of the podcast and the conversation, please reach out. We are looking for new candidates and fresh conversations every month. So it will be great to be in touch.
Not just for the podcast, please guys, if you've got any ideas for a technical video as well.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with a certain concept and you want me to look at it, make a little bit of a video from the technical how-to sessions, please get in contact with us.
Yes, and so Flow also launched some very interactive demos and dashboards for specific industries. That's freely available on our website to interact with. So again, we'll share the links with you after the session. And two powerful guides was launched by Untitled Automation. The first one is the perspective planning checklist.
That's useful.
Yeah, it's very useful. And this is to get the best out of your perspective project. And the second one is the ignition and deployment best practices. It's also a very good guide that will help you better understand how to deal with deploying applications and provide some best practices for setting up your deployment and testing workflows.
Especially if you're doing your first project, or not even
Yeah.
your first, especially if you've done a project before, definitely useful stuff.
Yeah, so again, we'll share these links with you afterwards where you can download it and interact and use it wherever necessary. Again, Canary also launched a new and updated sandbox environment for Axiom, where you can reconfigure great content to explain use cases, best design principles, which utilizing the assets modeling to build quick dashboards. Again, you can start from scratch, and it's a very interactive demo and tool that you can make use of. And then, then Lenny will cover the support side of Flow that have changed at Element 8.
Cool, thanks guys. Just from a support perspective, obviously we at Element 8 do have a full-fledged ticketing system where people can go and log support tickets for any of the 3 products in the stack, Ignition, Canary, and now obviously Flow as well. So the guys that's being used to log tickets via Flow, you'll notice on the Flow website that we do have the new details in there to log support via us here at Element 8. It's important to log these tickets. The reason is obviously a twofold, right? We want to have a formal log of the ticket. We want to also track our responsiveness to you guys from a ticketing perspective. And we definitely don't want to have any support tickets fall through the cracks because we didn't have it physically logged. So I encourage you guys, log these tickets, get them up and running. We are now officially handling Flow support as well for Africa and Europe. So you can utilize these methods to log the support either online. There's a nice form that you can submit. You can even upload a file of your problem, or via email, just to email support@element8.co.za. And you can also obviously telephone support via business hours in weekdays.
We love chatting to you on WhatsApp, but please, if it's a tech support, if it's a tech support issue, please log the ticket.
Yes, please. And just don't forget to actually log. Definitely. All right, that's as simple as it. Please log those tickets, and I can help you guys with whatever you're struggling from the stack perspective, and get these as resolved as quick as possible.
Cool. Thanks.
Jaco's just going to talk a little bit about some recent success that we had inside of our community with some projects and certifications.
Yeah, so the idea for the winners, we will hopefully every couple of months share some new customers, new success stories, new projects that have been done and completed, and we'll add that to this view. And hopefully if you see something that's interesting, a specific customer or industry or story, we can share some information, not all, but we can definitely share some information around how that was deployed and used. Before we do that though, I want to quickly highlight some of our partners. Our system integrator partners are, of course, the brilliant people that we've helped to train and are able to skill up to help you get the best out of your software. There's been a couple of exciting developments there. We have Iritron, the Iritron group, very excited. They are the most recent Ignition certified system integrator, but also more exciting, they are the first Sepasoft certified integrator in Africa, I believe. I would definitely can say South Africa, I think as well. So that's really, really great from Olwe and Gerard and the team at Iritron to become not only Ignition certified, but also Sepasoft certified in literally a very short space of time. Our fourth and most recent Ignition Gold certified system integrator, Next Integration, Rob and his team, really excited to have them on board as a gold certified integrator, which is our fourth gold certified in South Africa. On the Canary side, we have a new Canary certified partner, EOH Process Automation Solutions, I think now known as Digital Industries. They have become certified on Canary and also busy with a couple of exciting projects. And then very exciting for us in South Africa is we have DEM Controls in Nigeria. Akande and his team, they have signed up as a system integrator for the stack of products in Nigeria. So that's really cool to have a North African partner on board as well. At the bottom, we have a couple of recent, and really when I say a couple of recent, I'm talking about specifically January to March. We'll update that every quarter to give an idea of some of the logos and companies that we're adding. TechnoServe, really excited about that one. They're doing some really sexy stuff with MQTT and they've deployed a fairly wide geographically disparate system. DRD Gold, really cool to see something in the mining space. Mike and the team are doing also some really good things with Ignition. Bimbo QSR, quick serving restaurants down in Cape Town. It smells amazing in that plant. It's probably the best smelling plant that manufacturing plant that we've been to. They of course make the bread rolls for a couple of fast food chains. Ingrain is the previously Tongaat unit, Canary application over there, and then also PMC, Oklahoma Mining Company, also Canary application. That's a fairly big database that they have running over there. And then the more recent one is Coca-Cola Beverages. That's a full stack user of Canary, Ignition, and Flow at the moment. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the verticals and some of the customers deploying the solutions at the moment. On the success story side, unfortunately, this isn't a local story, a South African story, but this is a very, very cool one that we wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of. So we're just going to call it a vessel project. It hasn't been approved for publication yet, so we can't give you an idea of who the fairly large global oil customer is, but we'll just call it a vessel project for now. Vessel is obviously a very technical term for a ship, or a boat. It's a vessel. But what the project consisted of was really a fleet of over 30 vessels, and the project will be deployed over 3 years. Where the competition, this is an Ignition and MQTT specific architecture story. Where the competition in this case was a typical industry-specific or vertical-specific software that we do very, very often find in a lot of specialist verticals. The requirement was obviously a cloud connectivity, specifically over VSAT or satellite communication, which is, I suppose, kind of obvious as it is a vessel out in the middle of the ocean. Naturally, there's no 3G or Wi-Fi around. And the architecture may be look a little bit complex, but Lenny, I think you're going to talk us through what that looked like.
Yeah, first of all, I did not know that a vessel has so many components on it. We used to see DMZs and stuff between enterprise solutions and current control, and they actually have 3 DMZs physically on the boat, separating business app and ERP solutions all the way down to the actual critical control solution. Now, the nice thing about this is that, yes, MQTT is very modular, so you can deploy very specific modules on what you need to achieve with the solution. But people always think sometimes MQTT and they think low bandwidth reduction. in this case, MQTT was not just used for that, it was actually used to get very easily across all of these DMZs that we have in the boat to share data with all the different systems. Not just process-related data, actually files. So they send files across over MQTT. They even send IP camera data across the MQTT level to actually see real IP camera data via MQTT.
All over MQTT.
All over MQTT. So very great success story there. Obviously, utilizing the model that's been burst by Sparkplug for that. And then obviously, as I mentioned, very efficient comms. But yeah, a little bit different from what we used to by utilizing this for file transfer and camera data as well.
Typically functions people wouldn't assume associated
with MQTT. And then obviously having the modular capability to also deploy the Azure cloud injectors that Ignition has to actually push the data into their cloud infrastructure as well from an Azure perspective.
Cool. Very nice story there. Looking forward to hopefully sharing a little bit more detail around this one when we can. Cool. If you have any other questions on any of these applications or customers, we can share what is available to us, and a few of them are also publicly available.